First of all, just to kind of get this breakout press conference with New Mexico State Athletic Director Mario Moccia started. Mario, just kind of give us a brief overview of your thoughts about today, the announcement of bringing 5 new schools into the Western Athletic Conference, the expansion that the league has wanted for so long. So just kind of give your overall thoughts about, the excitement of today and what this means for the future of the league.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I have a mask requirement inside of the NRG facility. Yeah, I think today was a great day. And the first and foremost, it adds much needed stability to the Western Athletic Conference. Obviously, Bakersfield and UMKC had left recently. We had the addition of Tarleton State and Dixie State University. But to add 5 schools and 5 quality schools, I think that puts to rest, the instability question. So that to me is first and foremost. You've got very brand name schools in the state of Texas, Lamar, Abilene, Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, and then Southern Utah University. So it really shores up the geography. You've got now 6 Texas schools. That's more than Conference USA. That's more than the Big 12. I think that's huge. You've got 3 right there in Utah. And then I think you guys have seen the proposed divisions, the West and the Southwest. Right now they have us in the West, even though that has not been set in stone. That certainly looks like what it's going to be. So I think, you now have a regional league for the most part. I think it's going to help all the sports because these additions have had great success in different sports. But you talk about men's basketball. There was a time where just a few years ago we were 14th and we were 16th. So I think with these additions, specifically Abilene Christian and of course Stephen F. Austin, it's going to raise the basketball profile up, men's basketball profile up significantly. And then, the elephant in the room is football. FCS football is coming back to the Western Athletic Conference. I think that's great. We've demonstrated, you've heard from our leadership over the course of many years that, our die is cast in the FBS. We're an independent, but that's what we're going to stay. We're scheduled out very robustly through 2025, 2026. So our schedules are set. But we're glad that football is here because you all know one of our top priorities as an institution is to secure a home for New Mexico State for football from a conference standpoint. And while being invited is something that you can put yourself in the best position, but other conferences would still have to invite you. You'd be disingenuous if you didn't say, hey, we hope some of these institutions that are coming into the Western Athletic Conference have a desire at some point to maybe look at transitioning to FBS. And if that's the case, maybe that becomes our league, and we're in the Western Athletic Conference for everything, including FBS football. Now that's a ways away, but it certainly, is something that you need to look for on the horizon. So I think this is a great day. Really appreciate our president, John Flores. He's the president of the board of directors that the WAC makes up. So he's done a heck of a job in landing this airplane successfully. And then certainly our commissioner, Jeff Hurd, has worked on this for a long, long time. And we're really pleased that his efforts came to a successful conclusion. So I think, Charlie, those are pretty much my comments. There's Van, Sportscaster of the Year. Hey, Van, you beat out my man, Jack Nixon. He's not going to hold that against you.
All right. We'll open it up for any questions that you have. Just kind of identify yourself and, your questions right afterwards, and as well as the agency you represent. We can go ahead and get rolling here.
Mario, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. I'm going to turn up my volume here a little bit. Hang on one second.
Yeah, you mentioned long-term possibilities, maybe football, being in the WAC. So with that being in mind, how does this announcement today affect the way you guys schedule and just handle business moving forward for the next 4 or 5 years for football?
Yeah, I think number one, as I said, for the most part, we are pretty much scheduled through 2025, 2026. So there's not a whole lot of movement that would need to take place. You can't schedule based on what might happen, but it's nice that, you know, we don't have a huge desire to start scheduling deep in 28 and 2029 and 2030. We're feeling really comfortable with where we are right now. And I think over the next few years, if there's a direction that these schools coming into the WAC look like they're looking at FBS football, then that will, you know, we'll know that and we'll be able to kind of adjust accordingly if we think that is going to happen.
Mario, can you hear me?
I can hear you really good, man.
Okay, yeah, if I had my mic off, I didn't notice. I was just talking up a storm to you and you didn't say
Oh,
anything.
sorry. No. Hey, dude,
Hey,
yeah, now that you're sportscaster of the year, I didn't think you were going to talk to me anymore. But
oh,
now that's
yeah,
why.
right.
That's why.
Oh, yeah, you know how that goes. Hey, man, so basically everything remains the same because, you know, like on a release, there was a little bit of confusion just because of the FCS thing and the football teams coming in. But football, you guys remain independent. Oliver explained it to me. You guys remain independent, and it's basically the same deal. You guys just got new teams in the league, right?
That is correct. You know, we're going to keep our status as an FBS independent. You know, these teams will now come in and start playing FCS football. Certainly, you know, I've talked to the ADs, so I have a good handle on, you know, who might be having an eye towards FBS transition. But right at the outset, hey, football is just getting started back in the WAC, and I think it's a great first step, albeit at the FCS level.
Hey, Mario.
But you guys are playing FCS though, right? You guys are playing FBS, right?
We are FBS and we are remaining FBS.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah. And Van, we are scheduled. We've got a full schedule through 2025, 26. We may have a game or two, but we are scheduled out 2021, 22, 23, okay. 24, 25. Yeah, we've got a full FBS schedule for many, many years ahead of us.
And when do you anticipate you guys are actually just going to wait for the other teams to be FBS before you start scheduling them, the other teams in the WAC? Is that how that works?
Well, that is going to be decisions that those institutions will have to make. You know, do they feel like transitioning to FBS is in their best interest? As I said, you know, if they do feel that way and they do decide to transition to FBS, that could be very beneficial for New Mexico State because that might be an opportunity for us to get into an FBS conference, one that we make on our own at the WAC versus waiting to be invited, you know, and nobody knows if you're ever going to get invited. So I think it gives you a potential pathway and an opportunity.
Hey, Mario, this is Adrian with ABC7. Just wondering, will you be considering them for non-conference schedules for playing some of these guys from the FCS for non-conference?
Yeah, you see right now, well, you know, we still don't 100% know what's going to happen this spring, but we've got Tarleton State and we've got Dixie State on our football schedule. So I think it would be natural when we play FCS opponents to look at these schools. You know, they are equally scheduled out with FBS opponents, but I don't know if it ratchets it up that we would look to them. But yeah, if there's a possibility, we will have them on our schedules down the road.
Mario, looking over to basketball now, just because these rumors have kind of been circulating about conference expansion, and I've heard just from some people, sort of some viewers, some people within our station, they've said bringing in more competition to the WAC. Obviously, the basketball programs that you guys are bringing in, very, very reputable teams. I mean, Joe Golding's got a great team at Abilene, Stephen F. Austin. The competition is definitely going to be ramped up for you guys in the WAC. For those people who would say, who are concerned that maybe it gets a little tougher for New Mexico State to get into the NCAA tournament as much as it does, what's the counter to that? Obviously, the competition drives up. Obviously, there's seeding that goes into it. I disagree with the people who say that the added competition is not good for New Mexico State basketball, but give your take to back that up.
Yeah, I think that, look, we've had some really, really good teams the last few years, and the highest we've ever received is a 12 seed. So I do think, number one, would never want to shy away from competition. I think competitors want to play against the best competition they can play. That's one thing, full stop. Certainly from an NCAA standpoint, look, this league on its own was a 14th ranked league and a 16th ranked league, in back-to-back years. So we saw Utah Valley winning 20 games, Seattle winning 20 games, Grand Canyon and us. What I think the WAC has suffered from is our marquee players have left. Utah Valley had a little mini exodus to BYU when there was a coaching change. They also just lost another top player to USC this past year. I know the Seattle's best player is at the University of Arizona. So there has been the top talent has seemed to have an exodus to the Power Five, and that's why I think one of the reasons why we slipped as a conference last year. So I think Abilene Christian, certainly Stephen F. Austin will help us maintain and even exceed that. So I think an aspirational goal and maybe a realistic goal is to be a top 12 conference, from a Ken Palm RPI standpoint in the very near future.
Do you think that this league, the teams that you guys are bringing in, by 2024, 2023, what is the optimism for you that this could be a 2-bid league for the NCAA tournament?
Well, look, you've seen Stephen F. Austin have seasons where they've won 29, 30 games and won games in the tournament. We've had seasons like that. I know Grand Canyon is good and pouring a lot of resources into their program. Abilene Christian is certainly an up-and-coming program. So, look, that's where it is, right? If you can get that 2 teams in, and I don't know, maybe it's where you have a no-brainer 29-win team and they get upset in the final game of the conference tournament. You get 2 teams in, you win a game or 2. Well, that's where the revenue starts kicking in. So I'm excited about that. Certainly, yeah, the competition's going to get harder. We've never considered our ticket automatically stamped. We've had WAC conference final games that have been very competitive. But yeah, it's gonna force us to go back and look at ourselves and, hey, what can we do to stay on top? That's part of the deal.
Obviously, the league is splitting into divisions with the new teams. What do you think of just the fact that it's not going to be all one WAC conference? It's not going to be a round robin. It'll probably be playing. Play the teams in your division twice, maybe the teams in the other division once. How do you think that'll change things up for the league?
I'm anxious to see how we are going to divide that. I'm sure that at our next few AD's meetings, especially Colin, since it looks like the 4 Texas schools will be coming in a year earlier than originally planned. So we'll have to look at all those types of schedules on conferences that have divisions and say, hey, what makes the most sense for us? Obviously, I think a lot of people would like to see a New Mexico State, Stephen F. Austin matchup, 2 historic, mid-major powers. But yeah, that's one of the things we're going to have to get worked out very soon.
Mario, what is preferable? Because Jeff talked about the divisions being split as of now, the Texas schools and then New Mexico State going west is what he said, which would keep you in with Grand Canyon, but not with the Texas schools in the division.
Yeah, and I assume there'd be crossover games. When I was in the Big 12, we played everybody in our division. Then we had 3 football crossover games. So I know it's going to be something like that. But, it's funny, Jeff, when we had a head coaches meeting, I guess it was yesterday morning, and I was informing them of this press conference and the addition. And I said, hey, what does everybody think about being in the West versus the Southwest? And you know what? There was not a whole lot of, we've got to be here, we've got to be there. The coaches just, they were not overly passionate about one side or the other. I think some of the bat and ball sports maybe were a little for the West, softball, baseball, but quite frankly, not a whole lot of passion on either side. So, we'll take what we get.
What is this doing for you for stability wise? I mean, no one more New Mexico. And I because of the football piece, I don't think anything's settled, but just as far as where you've been with this league, I watched New Mexico State join a WAC and there was a celebration, and I've watched this league barely hold on for the last couple of years. Just for stability for all your sports outside of football right now, there's got to be a big relief.
I think so too. You know, I was talking to the president of Grand Canyon, and he said, "Hey, well, what do you think about it?" I said, "I think the number one thing this addresses is stability." And Jeff Hurd talked about that, our commissioner on the podium. You know, the Western Athletic Conference had a great run from, you know, the 60s through the 90s, mid 90s, and then, you know, it kind of tailed off. And it was almost in the last round of big realignment, it was like the musical chairs. Whoever didn't have a chair in the room just said, "Hey, let's get together and have a conference." That's what it felt like. This is the first time I felt, hey, now this is a stable league, multiple teams, everybody's excited, and I think that's by far and away the biggest takeaway. You hit the nail on the head: stability.
Hey Mario, what does this do moving forward for just sense of optimism? Do you think that the addition of these teams and, you know, growing the brand of the conference, do you think it could come with, you know, more possible TV rights down the road? I mean, basketball, maybe you get a couple games picked up by ESPN Plus. I know you guys have the WAC digital network now, but what do you think this could do for as far as multimedia for you guys?
Well, that's a great question, Nate. I mean, you know, you know, as of right now, I'm looking at Stephen F. Austin. There is a gaggle of press. Now, you know, they've got the Houston marketplace there, but I mean, all of these Texas schools have brought an impressive, it's a big deal in these communities. So I do think, while I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, I am quite sure that we will be talking about using a media consultant so we can maximize our rights. Right now, I think WAC Digital is great, but we're not monetizing it very much. I'd like to see something from that. And then, look, down the road, the football piece is also very unique too. You know, while we will not be participating in the FCS, but if it ever did morph into an FBS league down the road, there are a lot of exciting possibilities that one can think of from a media standpoint and a financial standpoint.
What's been the talk of FBS football?
Well, right now, you know, it's really been some talk behind closed doors, Jeff. So, I mean, I don't want to be at liberty to start saying, hey, which ADs are talking about the possibility of that. I mean, at the press conference, it just broke that, you know, UTRGV will be looking at adding football, you know, and I looked over, I was sitting right next to I hit like on it, and the UTRGV AD is like right next to me, and I'm like, hey, did you see this? He goes, yeah, that's our beat writer. So, you know, it's a fluid situation, but I think, I do think that these Texas schools look at a North Texas, a Texas State, a UTSA, and I think they look at them and say, hey, that used to be us a few years ago. So while I haven't had sit-down specifics about this, that's just a feeling I get that some of these Texas schools certainly look at their peers who have made the move and see a lot of positives about that.
You think this
Mario,
does
did
for
you guys-
what do you think this does for your other sports? I mean, not men's basketball and football. I think from a baseball perspective, Sam Houston has been to some super regionals. Those Texas teams that have been added I think will strengthen that side of it. But as far as your other sports, how does this strengthen the conference as it does for football and basketball?
Well, you know, Stephen F. Austin has outstanding volleyball. You know, that's going to rival ours for sure. Some of the, you know, obviously you mentioned it, Sam Houston in baseball. I think when you look across the board, it's going to be now on us. And the reason why I like this, we have had a nice run competitively in the WAC. And of course, everybody loves winning and it's great, but I love a challenge. I love new people coming in, and it kind of gets not that we're sitting on our duff or anything. I think you guys not know that, but man, it forces us to say, okay, we got new people in the league. Here's our goal. We're great. We're one happy family. Now, how do we beat their brains in? And that's going to force us to get together from each sport and say, what do we need to do not just to remain competitive, but to remain a championship caliber teams in every sport. So I'm excited about sitting down and seeing how to figure out to stay on top in softball and win a championship in baseball, women's golf. Track is up and coming now. Stephen F. Austin, I believe, has great track. So yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to maybe put some inject a little added enthusiasm into all of our programs.
Hey, Mario, I know you said you had the schedule built out all the way to 2025, but did it ever cross your mind at all? Like when you saw the FCS team join, did you ever think like, well, hey, do we jump in there and then go up later with them? Or did you ever think?
Okay, I took my mask off. Van, no, we are staying FBS.
No. I said, did it ever cross your mind, like because the other teams were FCS? Did it ever cross your mind to probably try it?
No, I think I personally think once you go to FCS, you're not coming back. So
okay.
Yeah, I think we've crossed this road a few years ago, and we're committed to FBS football. Not to get into all the reasons, but so many of our alums, our fans, measure ourselves against two schools, UNM and UTEP, and I couldn't see a day where we are playing at a lower level than our two main rivals and the people we benchmark. Not just our athletics, but even the academic side of things. So I think we're, and I say that only because a couple of years ago, the Regents had a proclamation or whatever the proper word is that we were going to remain at FBS football.
All right. Anything else for Mario, guys?
I just had one more, if you can hear me, Mario.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So since we have you, what's the latest with men's basketball? How they're holding up with their current situation and when they'll get back?
Yeah, timing is never great because this coming weekend was our natural, what's the word I'm looking for? Our natural bye week, right? We had another bye week created by Chicago State. So it doesn't come at a great time. And I'll say this, I was under the impression that, hey, there'll be a lot of teams who are opting out, and that then by virtue of that, we'll have a lot of people that we can just schedule on the fly. And that has proven not to be as easy as I had originally thought. Sometimes you have to live through a circumstance to understand it, but it's not like, hey, so-and-so and so-and-so can't play, but hey, let's just call them and, have them come out to Phoenix, or we'll just come out there. It seems like these starts and stops, and a perfect example is what we went through. We play a game, we test and we're negative, but the team that we had just played had some positives. So the new team now doesn't want to play us because we played it. You know what I mean? It's that game that has been very difficult. So look, while it's been difficult, we remain pretty vigilant that, we are going to eventually get back on the court. Our next scheduled game is next weekend against UTRGV. So I'm very hopeful that, we can get our sea legs under us. And heck, at this point, our injured players, will be getting close to back. So that's the one positive that I'll pull out of it. But, I just give the coaches and the student athletes all the credit. You've got to have a heck of a coaching staff to keep these guys focused and motivated and comforted and everything else, because I can tell you, we would much rather be sleeping in our beds in Las Cruces than what our current situation is. It's just, we're just going to play the cards that were dealt with us, and hope that the gating criteria changes, or hope the cases go down, and we'll be the fastest people coming back to Las Cruces, New Mexico that you've ever seen.
All right. Anything else from Mario this morning, guys?
No, thanks, Margo. Thank you, Mario.